What is going on, my cute little bread bunnies? Welcome back to the Bread Atlas, the show where we explore breads from all around the world. Today, I'm in the mood for a little bit of curry, or perhaps some hummus. That sounds pretty good too. And what goes best with both of those? Naan! Precisely. But here's the thing. Most of us are pretty familiar with the Indian style naan, the more circular one with the bubbles and the char. It's delicious. But did you also know that there's an Afghan style naan? And there's also a bunch of other ones, but we're not doing those today. We're doing India and Afghanistan. Let's do it. Naan time. Here we go. Okay, for your Afghan naan, you are gonna need 2 cups of all-purpose white flour. That's about 240 grams. 2 cups of whole wheat flour, also 240 grams. Tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of dry active yeast, a half cup of warm water to help bloom that yeast. Then you'll have 2 teaspoons of salt, a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and 2 cups of water. Also over here, I've got some nigella seeds and some yogurt. That'll come later in the process, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. Let's mix this up. After 10 minutes, you should see this sort of bubbling action with your yeast. That's gonna tell you that it is raring and ready to go. So I am going to take that. We're gonna go into a bowl with all of that yeast, sugar, and water. And I always like to do wet first. So all your wet ingredients go in first, and then you can put your dry on top of that because it will keep your dry from sticking to the bottom and you getting clumps of flour. Helpful tips to help you grow as a baker. All right, in with that. Salt is last. Do a little cleanup. So in with your hands that were given to you by nature. We don't need any sort of spoon. Now, I personally am immediately noticing an issue here. What do you think has happened? This is a very wet batter, and it says that I'm supposed to knead it. And I can certainly mix it, but kneading it? Abby, can we consult the recipe? This is not right at all. It is so wet. So, what we know about the Bread Atlas is that we tend to make mistakes a lot, and we like to show you those mistakes. So, we're gonna actually do what the recipe says this time instead of what I think I know is best. So what we're gonna do is jump back in. Our yeast is A-okay now, nice and bubbly. So that's gonna go in just like that. And again, we're still gonna stick with wet into dry. So oil in, or sorry, dry into wet. You get it. Flours, and we're not gonna pour all of this water in. That's where our mistake came. The water is supposed to be incremental until it feels right. Here's my thing about until it feels right. I 100% agree with that. My reasoning brain goes, yeah, but shouldn't it always work? And the answer is no. That's why we weigh things out in the kitchen. Okay, so this is coming together and it's gonna start clumping because there's not a lot of liquid in there. So I'm gonna start incrementally adding water. I'm only gonna start with about 1/3 of it because we want it to come together into a dough that we can knead and not a batter that we can make pancakes out of, which is what we got last time. And I'm interested to see what that turns into. Okay. Yeah, this is good. So what happens with different types of flours is that they absorb water differently. So I think this has enough for now. And it does still look a little bit wet, but that's because the wheat flour absorbs water at a different rate than your standard white flour because there's that wheat germ that is still in there. It takes a little bit longer for that to fully absorb the water. So we're just gonna mix it in this bowl for a little bit, and then I'm gonna get it out onto this work surface and knead it really well. And once that is done, it will go into an oiled bowl and we'll leave it to sit for like 2 to 4 hours. And once it's doubled in size, we'll roll it out and get it moving. Great. When you're working with a little bit wetter dough in a bowl, you can work it against the side of the bowl like this, and that will help develop your gluten and make your dough a little bit stronger while it's still wet. The more you work it, of course, the easier it's gonna get. And the more it's gonna come together for you. As we keep working it, it's gonna come together and be nice and homogeneous. That's why we do these slap and folds. It kind of breaks it away from your hands so that you're not just working a muddy mess. So I think it's just a little bit wetter than I necessarily want it to be. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of flour, and that should bring things together the way that we need them to. So we ran into some issues that on the back end, I understand, in the moment, kind of frustrating. So my thing that, of course, you got to see me run into is that the recipe itself called for a variable amount of liquid. And that means a variable product on the back end because there's not a lot of consistency. But what I understand is that most bakers throughout history were doing things by feel. So it makes sense. What we will try and do is give you a tried and true gram to gram recipe so that you can get a consistent bake every time. But we had to add flour a couple more times throughout this process to get something that's a little bit more consistent and doughy. But now that we've gotten there, we are set to move this guy into a nice oiled bowl. Just make sure that that's rubbed all around inside so that nothing sticks on its way out. And then we will plop this dude in there and come back to it in just a little bit of time. All right, the moment of truth. Not so bad, not bothered by it. It's big. It's big. A little bit of flour down on your work area. Make a mess, it doesn't matter. It's your home. Pick up a mop. And then this will get dumped out onto here. I've got a little bowl scraper just in case it doesn't come out, but smooth. Not too shabby. Clean bowl-ish. So we will take this guy, find a halfway decent halfway point. That's about half and half. Sure, great. Half goes out. The other half, we are going to stretch out into kind of like a big old football-y shape. Marvelous. Yeah, this is actually holding together fairly well. All right, kind of the look we're going for. Elongated. Awesome. Great. And you can also, I've seen a lot of them with a little bit of like finger patterns in them. So like some channels down the middle and some sort of edge. So we're gonna try that. And then we'll do one of them without. Cool? All right. Once you've got it in the shape that you're looking for, excuse the bang. Once you've got it in the shape you're looking for, we'll just transfer that over to a parchment-lined cookie sheet. Once we have them on said cookie sheet, I'm gonna take that yogurt and either milk or water mixture that we made earlier, and then that's gonna go right on top of our bread. So this is going to add a layer for the nigella seeds to stick to, but it's also going to aid in our browning process. So when proteins meet heat, high heat, they do what's called the Maillard reaction, and that unlocks thousands of chemical compounds in protein that gives you all those yummy, caramelly sort of flavors. So that is why we do that. Gives it a little bit more potential for browning, more flavor, and at the end of the day, more delicious bread. All right. All right, so we're gonna bake these at the same time. One of them I'm going to broil at the end. The other one I'm just gonna bake straight and pull it out when it's done. Little nigella seed action. These are also called black cumin seeds, and there's a few other names that they have, but they're yummy little warm, spicy nuggets of goodness. Perfect, beautiful, lovely. Let's get them in the oven. 20 minutes, 15 minutes, excuse me. And then they will come out and we'll see how they look. Fingers crossed. Oh God, fingers crossed. You didn't know I could slap like that, did you, bitch? Baby boy. Come on, baby boy. I can't dance, I don't know how to dance. Hey, let's check on the bread. Looking good. Nice. I'd call that naan. That one's looking really nice. Yeah, we can go ahead and pull that. How pretty. Look at it. I gotta tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised that we got to this point after where we started. I mean, we had a bucket of goo, for God's sake. And look at us now. We did it. We've done it. All right, let's dig a little deeper into naan. You might wonder why different naans look, well, different. Naan isn't just a bread, it's a culinary category of expression. As it traveled across regions, it evolved like a culinary chameleon. In North India, you'll find garlic naan brushed with ghee so fragrant it should come with a warning label. In Pakistan, keema naan is stuffed with spiced meat. And in Afghanistan, naan-e tandoori, like we're making today, stretches almost ovular, like rustic canvas, if you will. But what makes naan culturally powerful is its adaptability. It bridges street food and royal cuisine, showing up everywhere from roadside davos to Mughal banquets. And it's a bread that tells the story of migration, empire, and shared culinary DNA across South and Central Asia. And today, it's global. You'll find naan in grocery stores from Chicago to Sydney, proving that some breads don't just stay home, they travel and evolve and win hearts everywhere they go. Okay, Indian naan ingredient check time. 2 cups white flour, a single teaspoon of dry active yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of warm water, a 1/4 cup of plain yogurt, 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of olive oil, a teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder, and that's gonna help it fluff up. Much like the other one, we are gonna get our yeast blooming with the sugar, and we'll get back in just a second to mix it up. Shall we mix? In a bowl, we will put our yeast and water and sugar mixture, and this we are gonna do wet first. Get on, oh, I have to scrape that out with my fingers. It's okay, they're clean, for the love of God. All right, salt in, a little bit of baking powder, and flour. So this should all start to come together into a nice ball after a little bit of mixing. So we're gonna try and develop just a little bit of gluten here. Another very wet batter that I am gonna add some flour to, but this time we were prepared. Already have flour over here, and that's about, I don't know, 2 tablespoons. That's what I'm looking for. Coming together. Perfect. Similar to last time, much wetter than we wanted, so I ended up working about an extra half a cup of flour into there to get it to a point where it's more ball-like. So that's, again, pointing back to the reason why it's really good to measure everything that you do. Now, we're not writing recipes per se, we're learning from what other people have written. And this is just a learning experience, you know? Everything is gonna change from time to time, and you gotta be ready to adjust, and that's what we're doing. So, dough is in a ball type shape. It will now be moved into a bowl, nice and oiled, and it'll sit for upwards of 2 to 4 hours until we are ready to pull her out and see what we got. All right, sleep tight, little one. Hey guys, welcome back. Let's look at the second naan that we were working on, see how it turned out. I'm thinking, well, okay, would you look at it? It's big. It's definitely puffed up, that's what we're looking for. I like to see it. So this, very similar to the last one, we are just gonna dust our work surface. We're gonna turn this big old ball into 6 little balls. Dump that out onto a floured wake surface. Awesome. So, cut this bad boy in half. You know, I could have used the proper cutting side for that, but where's the fun in that, you know? All right. So if we do this, I'll say that's big enough for 1, that's big enough for 2, and 3. Perfect. It's not an exact science, just get close enough, you know? Okay, cool. So these, we will just shape into little orbs, and then we'll take them over to the oven, get our cast iron skillet nice and hot, and we'll griddle these up. So I'm just doing like a sort of cupping shape around them just to pull them together so that when I go to bake them off, they are relatively in a similar shape. Now, the big thing that you don't want is a crazy amount of flour. If you have too much, it's not gonna grab the board like you want it to and shape up properly. So, and you can tell, I mean, they're so different. I'm gonna take a little bit of that guy and give it over here. And would you look at that? A little better. Boom. All right, everybody's shaped up. Let's get them over to the oven. Stove. All right, we've got a station set up right by the oven. I've got a screaming hot cast iron skillet over here. I also have a brush and some water. Per the recipe, we're supposed to brush water on one side of these before it goes into the skillet. So, we've got a lightly dusted surface, and we're supposed to just go a couple of times in one direction and a couple of times in the other direction. Well, that's doing great, isn't it? It's a little stickier than I thought. All right. We'll see how this goes. That's not the shape of a naan, but that's what happened to this one. You know what? I'm gonna go rogue, because this is certainly not going to work well doing these this way, because I've made plenty of naan in my time. All right, just a few seconds on one side, said the recipe. I already smell burning, it's very hot, but that is what we're looking for. We're looking for this char. That is one of the telltale signs of a good naan, is to get that charring and bubbling. So doing this with a rolling pin, not necessarily the best get. We're gonna pat them out with our hands the rest of the time and see if we get a little bit better results. Yeah, very nice, cool. Transfer over. All right, so instead of rolling pin, we are going to stretch them out kind of like a pizza and try and keep it as even as you possibly can. I know that that's hard. These edges have a little bit more structural integrity than your center will. So really working on those is gonna give you a better shot once you get it in the pan, but it's never gonna be perfect because, you know, it can't be. It's artistic. All right, so you should get a pretty decent sizzle. Beautiful. All right, let's talk about this Indian naan. So if bread had a VIP lounge, naan would be sitting in the corner wearing sunglasses, drinking a martini. Now this soft, blistered flatbread traces its roots back to the ancient Persians, where the word naan simply meant bread. And when the Mughal Empire swept into the Indian subcontinent in the late 16th century, they brought with them the tandoor, a cylindrical clay oven that burns hotter than your average summer sidewalk. Now that's where naan truly became a star. The dough itself is enriched with yogurt or milk, which gives naan its signature tenderness and slight tang. Slap that onto the scorching walls of a tandoor, and in under a minute, you get those iconic charred bubbles and chewy edges. But naan isn't just delicious, it's ceremonial. It shows up at wedding feasts and family gatherings across India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. It's the edible handshake of South Asian hospitality, as it were, built for scooping, sharing, and savoring. Here we are, naan. Two different types. You know, I think all things considered, things turned out pretty well. I think the Indian naan, it didn't bubble like I'm used to it doing. I've used other recipes in the past, but color turned out pretty decent. Texture seems to be okay. I'm not displeased with it by any means. It rips, it's got a nice flaky interior. I dig it. I'm digging it. Let's see how it tastes though. It tastes like naan, which is what we were going for. So, you know, hard to beat that. And then Afghanistan, much different kind of bread, right? Elongated, definitely has more structure to it because we actually spent the time to build the gluten. So that 6 to 10 minutes of kneading really changed the texture of this, whereas this guy over here has a give and a flop to it, and almost a chewy nature. This is definitely more structured, and if we break that open, it's gonna look a lot more similar to a more yeasted bread, especially because it has that full tablespoon of yeast in it. Oh, that's good. Definitely good. It's more on the drier side of things, and not in a bad way, just as compared to an Indian naan that has a little bit more moisture in it. This definitely does lean toward a more bready bread than this one does. Very good though. The nigella seeds are great. Add a nice bit of flavor to it. A pop of like spiciness almost. I should have told you. Butter chicken and hummus made it to the plate. Yeah, I think this was a fun experiment. Two different types of bread, same name, but we can see how they differ from country to country. And I think that's always fun when we get a chance to do that. But that is naan. What a great day. Lots of trial and error, lots of mountains to climb, lots of problems to figure out, and I think we did it. I'm proud of what we did today. And thanks for watching. Remember, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like on this video, subscribe, throw us a comment in the comment section if there's something that you want us to do, and we will see you next time.